an afterword. I ended my last session by mentioning something that's like edible, a chicken burger. Now, thank God, we have reached the omelette. And the omelette is about the broken self. I prefer to remain a bullseye. I don't want to break myself. I just want to tell you a few things. What is the necessity of theory? Just imagine the theory spectrum as a Milky Way staying there. If it does not link itself to daily life, if this theory cannot be put into praxis, what is the use of it? That's the only thought I want to share with you. And I'll just run through a few ideas very fast, like the minnal of KSRTC. I'll go very fast. We will start with new criticism and two terms associated with it: affective fallacy and intentional fallacy. Now, can you relate these two terms to creative writing, poetry? Can you agree with the argument that a poem should not mean but just be? A poem is not paraphrasable, etc. Can you link it to your daily appreciation of literature? These two terms, affective fallacy and intentional fallacy. The belief that you know what this poem affects or what effect it has on you. And number two, you believe that you know the intentions of the author. Can you think of it while appreciating literature? The next is from formalism, just one term from everywhere. Next is formalism. Think of the term defamiliarization. Every creative writer lives in an age when he has an excessive vocabulary, when he has an excess of imagination, when he has an excess of visuality. In this age, you can only be original if you are able to defamiliarize the familiar. For example, the great poet, German, not German, right? Who said rose is a rose is a rose? Gertrude Stein. See, Gertrude Stein said a rose cannot be defined in any other way except by saying a rose is a rose is a rose. Because all our ways of explaining the rose had been exhausted, and you have to, therefore, create a defamiliarized image. And she goes on to say sometimes even these defamiliarized become very familiar. So you have to often subvert and undercut language to create new imaginations. So I was reminded of a short story by M. Mukundan called Delhi Embada. Delhi Embada. The story is about a young girl walking through a stadium and a young man standing near the window and watching the young girl go. And then certain thugs come and attack her, and this man, Ramesh Pandey, cannot do anything to her. Cannot do anything to help her. And then Mukundan concludes the story like this. ഈ നിമിഷം ആകാശത്തിന്റെ ഏതോ കോണിൽ നിന്ന് ഒരു വെള്ളരിപ്രാവ് പറന്നു വന്ന് ഈ തെമ്മാടികളുടെ മൂർധാവിൽ കൊത്തിയിട്ട് പറന്നുപോയി. This is how the story ends. Now what M. Mukundan has done here is, not only through language, through small similes and metaphors and defamiliarize language, he has been able to subvert and undercut the climax of the story. So, don't you think literature needs to do that with theory and theory with literature? I'll stop by just mentioning Lacan. At least some of us teachers and students were very shocked when we went to listen to the lecture of Simon During at Mavelikara. We had a brief session with him, and we were terribly upset when he said, "Don't talk to me about Freud and Lacan, because they are both producers of pseudoscience." don't believe what they said, and he said, Lacan doesn't know what he has written. But can you ignore Lacan? For example, I have this wonderful idea about Lacan, where he says, the mirror is actually for me the mother. It's not the mirror, it's not the conventional mirror. If you start believing that the mirror of Lacan is a real mirror, then the essay falls flat. He's a pseudoscientist. Because we all know the image in the mirror is actually an inverted image. It's not the real image. But what he sees as the mirror is actually the mother. The child grows, evolves by looking at the mother. Every moment and movement of the mother is absorbed by the child. And every time the child is trying to be with the mother. And Lacan has a fine point there where he said, this leaning of the child towards the mother in the childhood is one of the reasons for the anxiety and tension of the grown-up person in adulthood. I think such ideas embedded in his writings are wonderful. But another idea of Lacan which I think you can put to use is, he inverts the idea of Descartes. Descartes said cogito ergo sum, which means I think, therefore I am. Lacan has inverted this in a fine way where he's thinking, I am where I think not. That means he says that he is always in his unconscious mind, not in his conscious mind. So such ideas, I think, are wonderful for creative writing. One more idea. In the morning we had, I won't be touching because Harold Bloom is already dead, and I'm terribly worried about this idea of anxiety of influence. He used to say that when Wordsworth and Shelley are writing, Milton and Shakespeare are looking over his shoulder, frightened of the influence. Similarly, I am also having this influence, anxiety of influence and anxiety of plagiarism. Because 5 scholars spoke before me. So all that they said, I may repeat. So I wouldn't do that. But look at the example of Derrida's aporia. I'll just mention 2 examples. Derrida has this wonderful idea that is, the best deconstructive text is a text which has the maximum number of aporias. And his examples of aporias are wonderful. For example, he says, the example of Abraham in the Bible. Abraham is asked to sacrifice his son, Isaac. And he does that. And Derrida is of the opinion, this episode becomes wonderful because Abraham is caught up between his loyalty to God and his love for his son. It is this gap, it is this fissure that makes it wonderful. Then he goes on to speak about the Messiah or the Avatar. Derrida speaks about a Messiah or an Avatar. Everyone was waiting for the Avatar or the Messiah, but he does not come. Then one day, the Messiah dresses himself as a beggar and goes to the city. And there, another beggar sees him, and the Messiah tells him, I am the Messiah, I am the Avatar. And immediately the beggar asks, but when will you come? This is a wonderful aporia. This is what makes literature wonderful. This is what makes theory wonderful according to Derrida. And the third example is of Gautama Buddha. Buddha says we have to be detached from life. We should not be attached to anyone. We should be detached. So Derrida asks, how can you take on that position and say, I love everyone in this world? So, when you look at characters, when you look at situations, are you able to link these dense, unfathomable, tough, theoretical propositions into everyday life? When I was a small boy, my father was a chain smoker. So sometimes I used to sit on my father's chair and take the small cigarette butts that he had left behind and I would smoke. My mother got very angry. I stopped. Then I used to take small sticks which had holes. I would light them and smoke and feel that I was dad. But again my mother got very angry. When I was on the dining table, I saw that my father, when he ate, he made a lot of sound. He used to put the rice into his mouth and all those sounds. But when I did this, my mother scolded me. And now I understand that I have a schizoid self. I have a split personality because my mother then differentiated between my father and I for the same action. So I developed a split there. And that schizoid self of mine reflects in my actions every day. See, can you link these theories like this to your everyday life? This is what theory should do. Otherwise, theory simply lies there in the curriculum. It is just the food for orthodox academics. And the classroom becomes a place, and you have new studies telling you that in a 90-minute period, only 18 minutes someone can concentrate. Not more than that. That's why I always stop with 15. And just imagine reading Lacan and Derrida and all these people without being able to link it to life. I'll stop with one small example which Derrida said at the beginning of his essay. An event has taken place. It is a rupture. That's what he says. And the rupture is a break. The end of structuralism and the birth of post-structuralism. And one of the beauties of post-structuralism or postmodernism is that in structuralism, everything had a structure and it was rounded and it was inside itself. But with the coming of postmodernism, now you understand that the architecture of Venturi is beautiful. Because the architecture of Venturi is in the model of an automobile station. The mobility you feel. The dance of Merce Cunningham is wonderful because it is contemporary. And the riotous music of John Cage is wonderful because he makes music even with his kitchen orchestra. So the difference between high art and low art has vanished. So the new age has begun, leading to the birth also of a new era of study, namely cultural studies. But my only problem is, as students of BA and MA, we should be able to think beyond the academic and curricular levels and link it to everyday life and give literary theory a local habitation and a name. Thank you.